Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome, dear participants. So far we have discussed the development of the art of cinema, its interconnections with literature, the difficulties which films have in the adaptation of a novel for film purposes. Today we would discuss certain technical terms and certain techniques and conventions which have been developed in cinematography to represent the reality in a particular manner. The first term which is often used is mise-en-scene, which is a French term which means placing on a stage. In the theatre, it used to refer to everything which was available on the stage, including the lighting arrangements, the props, the background, the actors, etc. In cinema also, therefore, it includes all these aspects that go in the creation of an individual shot, that is a substitute for the old age theatre. So, let us say that the lighting, composition, the costumes of the actors themselves, their get-ups, the props and the backgrounds which are used to create a particular shot come under the discussion of this term mise-en-scene. So, it relates in a way to the spatial aspects of the film. It helps us to understand the visual space, and whereas the montage is a modifier of the time, we find that mise-en-scene is a modifier of space. Various elements which go in the understanding of mise-en-scene are lighting, which we would discuss at this point. The lighting is arranged in 3 points. It can be termed as high, low and back. These type of light arrangements are used to develop a particular type of a contrast or to highlight a particular character. They are also used to create a mood with the help of the lighting. For example, for depicting a climate of romance or a light-hearted comedy, the lighting arrangement can be soft. On the other hand, the shadows and darker tones and palettes can be used to show the oncoming of something evil, the crime thrillers, the suspense or a horror film, etc. So, these lightings reflect the tone of the scene as well as they also reflect the mood of the character. They also suggest the particular timings, for example, darkness for the night, for the stormy scene also a particular lighting arrangement can be used to suggest it. The daylight is represented by the clear lighting arrangements. Costumes are also an important part of filmmaking because they help us to understand the verisimilitude which is necessary to appreciate a movie, and they add to the believability of the movie. It also helps us in differentiating the actors and also the time period which is represented in a movie. For example, the costumes of a World War movie would be very different from the costumes of a science fiction, and the very way in which the costumes are depicted, we find that the authenticity is also given to the depiction. The time period of the film is marked by the costumes, and at the same times it is used to mark the status, the class, the gender, etc. of different characters. On the basis of the costumes, we find that with a simple glance, the spectator can find out whether a person, the character belongs to the higher class, the elite or to the working class, etc. So, the settings are the visual element which is provided in the film. They incorporate the background and the location also, and all related special configurations which go into the projection of a particular scene. In the films, we find that depending on the finances which are available, the natural scenes as well as the artificial settings can be used. In a way, we find that technology has played a very major and significant role in substituting the setting. So, we find that with the help of computer graphics, the need of creating a particular type of setting can be done away with, as we have seen in the VFX used very effectively in TV serials like Game of Thrones and other science fiction movies also. However, these decisions about the settings depend on the budget, the time which is available, as well as other facilities which one has to take care of. So, normally it is considered that the sets or the VFX created special effects are helpful because they are cost effective, and at the same time filmmakers can have greater control on them. So, the use of props and objects is depicted to in relation to the subjects also, and different type of settings can be easily made with the help of computer simulations also. There are different types of shots also. The shots, the word shots refers to the visual field which is available in one frame or in one shot. These determine different aspects of a film setting, characters as well as themes also. They are instrumental in shaping the tone and the mood and as well as the meaning of a film, and there may be different types of shots in terms of the subject size, the camera angle, the camera movement, etc., which we would discuss right now. So, the shots based on subject size are three types. They may be long or wide or medium and close. The long and the wide shots can be considered as extreme long shot and medium long shot, and I think that with certain example this idea becomes clear to us. In extreme long shot, we find that the subject is seen from a distance. We can look at this particular projected image which is from a very recent movie, The Revenant. In it we find that the major character has been portrayed against a particular background. In a way it is known as an establishing shot which introduces a particular background to us, which also sets the tone of the movie in a very effective way. It also informs us of the space and the time related situations. The character himself or herself may not be very discernible, but it may have a panoramic description of the background which helps us to understand the relationship which a character has with a particular setting. In the long shot, we find that the emphasis is both on the subjects and the surroundings. The frame contains a full subject, and at the same time we find that the main character may have the discernible full appearance and the background is also discernible. These type of shots are used to project the relationship of the character with the environment, and also they tell us about the tone and the mood which the filmmaker wants to project. This particular image from the Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales, is very clear example of an effective and beautiful long shot. Medium long shots are normally filmed or used in a film to suggest the hierarchical relationships with a character. It splits the difference between a long shot and a medium shot, and the character is shown from knees up. So, when it is a low angle, that is the character or the actor is shown from the ground up, we find that it makes the character look rather menacing and powerful. In this particular image from The Dark Knight, we find that the menacing attitude of the character is discernible in this medium long shot. On the other hand, we find that in the medium shot, the subject is shown, the character is shown from the waist up, and the character is also shown from a discernible space where we can have a very clear view of the character's expressions, also their emotional states, and at the same time the background is also discernible. It is not completely overshadowed. This particular still from a popular TV serial based on Sherlock Holmes is a very beautiful specimen of a medium shot. Medium close up, as you can make out, focuses on the photograph of a chest up position of a particular actor or actress. It favors the face, but at the same time it keeps the subject or the character at a certain distance, as this particular example shows us. All of us are familiar with the word close up. It frames a particular part of the character. In close ups, if the subject is a person, then the frame is filled with the subject's face, and then it calls attention to the reactions and emotions of a subject. Normally, it is used to suggest the extent of the emotional upheaval which is being portrayed by a character. It is usually used in those situations when a character is undergoing severe traumatic psychological difficulties or upheavals. It also brings the subject close to the audience, and it helps the audience to have certain type of relationship or feeling or empathy towards these characters. It is also a particularly favorable shot during the filming of dialogues, and this example from the film The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo exemplifies it. In comparison to that, we find that extreme close up is used when a particular emphatic expression has to be displayed. The entire frame is filled up with the subject, and generally we find that the focus is on a body part. If the focus is on the face, we find that the camera focuses either on the eyes or on the lips, the mouth of the character, because the emotional state can be best exhibited either by the expression of the eyes or by the curve of the lips on a man's face. It also captures the slightest change possible, and in fact, the capability of an actor to impersonate a particular emotion is extremely important in these type of extreme close-up shots. They are deployed to communicate a sense of urgency, a sense of intensity, and this photograph from X-Men First Class illustrates the meaning of this extreme close-up shot very succinctly. We can also have different camera angles, and they are listed here, and let us try to discuss them very briefly. As we have already seen an example of a low angle shot, we find that in these type of shots the camera is positioned at a low height. A shot is captured from the ground up, and it emphasizes a power relationship between characters. So, in these type of low angle shots, we find that villains and monsters etc. are projected in a more powerful and menacing positions. People who hold a superior position or a position of power like kings, bosses etc. are also portrayed with the help of this low angle shot to suggest the supremacy of these characters in a particular situation. So, it enhances our understanding of the power, the aura and the states by making them look larger than life, and this photograph from The Invisible Man illustrates this idea of a menacing power with the help of a low angle shot in a very graphic manner. Opposed to that is a high angle shot, which is a reverse of the low angle shot. It also shows the hierarchy status of power relationships. In this particular type of a shot, camera is placed at a greater height. It looks down at the subject and makes the subject look powerless in a position which is humiliating, which is vulnerable, and therefore, the person who is depicted in this particular position feels exposed and threatened. This particular example from the famous movie The Citizen Kane also illustrates the vulnerability and the confused status of this character with the help of this high angle shot. The eye level shot is basically an attempt to mimic the way people normally behave in their day-to-day life. Here in these shots we find that the camera is positioned at the eye level. So, the eye level shot puts the subject in a neutral position, unlike the low angle and the high angle shots, and it does not depict any sense of hierarchy either of being powerful or powerless in either way. So, the eye level shots suggest a neutrality in terms of our relationship with the subject portrayed on the screen. The shot, which is bird's eye view, is an overhead shot which is taken from a considerable height, as the name, the title itself, the nomenclature suggests. Often we find that in the filming of these shots, the camera is attached to a crane or to a drone or to even a helicopter, and it captures a great deal of the location simultaneously. Normally it is used in establishing shots, shots which introduce us to a particular introductory aspect of a movie. They also capture feelings of freedom, release, solitude, isolation, etc. And they are used in chase sequences as well as in battle sequences. Here is a video which we would play for about 30 seconds to give you an understanding of what this shot exactly illustrates. Another interesting shot is known as the Dutch angle. It is also known as the canted angle, the Dutch tilt or the oblique angle. Here we find that the shots are taken when the camera is slightly tilted so that the line of the horizon is disrupted. It is often used to suggest a sense of drama or confusion and disorientation. The asymmetrical projection of things on the screen suggests an asymmetry in the psychological and emotional state of the person or of the situation which the film wants to suggest. This is a representative shot from Slumdog Millionaire. The link is also given here if you want to watch it for further understanding of the Dutch angle shot. There are some other parameters which are based on our focus, perspectives and the number of subjects which can be there in a particular shot. In a shallow focus, we find that the focus is on the main subject, the main character, and the depth of field is rather limited. So, the scenery of the background is rather blurred and the focus is on the face or the appearance of the main character. It also brings us to a closer understanding of the person who is being projected on the screen, and at the same time it makes us aware that the person who is projected with the help of shallow focus has to play an important role in the movie. This medium close up, this shallow focus shot in Marie Antoinette also suggests this very feeling to the viewer. In contrast, we find that in a deep focus shot, both the subjects in the background are in focus. It is a visually very dense shot and it establishes how the subjects relate to the surroundings and to a particular situation which is being contextualized with the help of this shot. This photograph from 12 Angry Men suggests how deeply tense this photograph is. This situation also depicts the relationship of these 12 people who are being projected here with a particular context. This over the shoulder shot is used normally in conversational scenes. Here we find that camera shots differ on the basis of perspective and a character is projected from the perspective of another character. So, it is primarily a dialogue centric shot, and here we find that this representative face of the character Rose in Titanic also depicts the idea of over the shoulder shot. So, we find that this particular character is being projected from the perspective of another character. The point of view shot is a very interesting one. It shows a point of view of one or more characters. It takes us inside the mind of the character and the audiences can see what the character can see. The shot only covers the actual visual field of the character, and it has also been very effectively used in various sequences of Harry Potter, particularly when Harry Potter thinks about Voldemort. It is often used to create suspense and drama and used in horror and suspense thrillers, and this is representation from a movie being Malkovich, the link for it is also given. If one wants to view it completely, we would play it for about 30 seconds to give you a clear idea of what we want to suggest by a point of view shot.
Malkovich. Malkovich, Malkovich.
We also have other shots, for example, single shots with only one subject in the frame, two shots which has two subjects in a frame, and three shots which fits three subjects in a frame. In all these type of shots, single, double and three shots, we find that the focus is on the subject or the characters and not as such on the background. Different camera movements are also used to depict the intensity of filming a particular situation or a particular emotional response on the part of a character. I would particularly focus on pan, tilt and pedestal. Pan movement, as you can understand, is taken when a camera is rotated horizontally from a fixed position, and tilt is when a camera is rotated vertically only from a fixed position. Pedestal, on the other hand, is when camera is moved vertically up or down without tilting it. Dolly suggests the movement when the entire camera is moved forward and backward along a track, and the truck is also the same as dollying, but we find that the movement is from left to right instead of being forward to right. The word arc suggests a combined movement of dolly and truck for a particular type of filming shot. Crane or boom is a shot which starts extremely high and moves to lower position or vice versa. It is often used for overhead and establishing shots. Zoom, all of us can understand. Rack focus is a technique, rather a move, and it is when the focus changes quickly from one subject to another in the same shot. Normally it is used to depict contrast so that the movement of the story can be hastened smoothly. For a detailed understanding of these different types of camera angles, the link is provided here. A very important term which I would prefer to discuss in somewhat detail is montage. Montage is a technique in film editing in which individual shots are put together. As we have discussed earlier, it is used as a modifier of time. So, it is central to films as it is essential to convey a lot of information within a short span of time, and it is used in particular situations so that it has now developed almost as a film convention. So, it is a quick succession of shots put together to narrate events which have taken a long period of time. So, it suggests a procession of time to show the progress of characters, and it condenses the space and time narrative situations. It is a very popular scene, a popular way, a popular technique for suggesting the training sequences for different types of movies based on sports and action. For example, in films like Rocky the Part 2, Karate Kid, Batman Begins, Doctor Strange, and the biopics which have been made on various sports stars, we find that the montage has been very effectively used to condense the long practice sessions which have ultimately transformed a young adolescent or a young boy into a famous athlete. It helps us in combining multiple storylines also, and it uses short sequences to introduce the back story of characters without going into a lot of detail. So, we find that with the help of the montage, the back stories can be covered in a very short limited number of scenes. So, intersections of storylines, the short sequences etc., are used effectively to convey a passage of time. Montage has been used very effectively by the Soviet art filmmakers and Soviet art theorists also, and according to them, the use of montage had enabled them to focus on poetic details and to communicate subtle nuances of characterization. A particular way of looking at the technique of montage is from the perspective of the Gestalt theory, which holds that viewers only require certain highlights of a particular narrative to make their own associations and fill in the gaps. So, it also creates meanings with the help of creating associations. So, montage as a technique helps us to create associations in order to understand the gaps within the passage of time as depicted in the movie. The technique of montage is also used to compare and contrast different scenes. For example, intercutting between different actions and scenes to establish contrast and symbolism. For example, the morning rituals of a housemaid and the morning rituals of the rich heiress to whom this maid serves can also be used to show the contrasting manners of their duties and the ways they spend their time. It also allows the filmmaker to establish an interaction between two seemingly different worlds and world pictures, and also it may suggest the conflict between the different mental states and thought procedures, and it may also represent the mental perceptions of people with the help of this technique. The technique of montage was very effectively used by the Soviet filmmakers. They have used it for revolutionary purposes, and therefore, we find that the technique of montage is often considered to be their legacy. They did not see it simply as an editing technique, but they used it to suggest a particular type of meaning, so that one can guide the psychological and emotional response of the audience. So, they used it as a way to interact with the audience and to provide certain aid to the audience by eliciting a particular response from him. The three theorists who are particularly known in this regard are Kuleshov, Pudovkin and Mise-en-scene. Kuleshov had demonstrated with the help of an experience that audience draw meanings from the interaction of shots rather than creating meaning on the basis of an individual shot only. In this experiment, he had filmed a shot of an actor with a neutral but intense expression and combined this shot with three different items. He combined this shot, the same shot, with a bowl of food, a child in a coffin and the photograph of a pretty lady. And he showed in the resulting sequences that different audiences attach different significance to the same neutral yet intense expression of this actor. When this face was shown with a bowl of food, audience normally related it with hunger. When this photograph, this particular close-up of an actor with a neutral yet intense expression was shown in association with the coffin of a child, it was associated with sorrow and disappointment and sadness. And the same face combined with a pretty lady suggested happiness. So, this idea that audience draws meaning and association from the interaction or juxtaposition of shots came to be known as the Kuleshov effect. Here is the video of the Kuleshov effect, which can be seen, and the links have also been provided. Another filmmaker who has a very dominant place as far as the theory of montage is concerned is Pudovkin. He has used montage to combine shots in order to create a comprehensive story, and he has used shots as building blocks, as bricks, and these bricks and these shots could be used in different ways to create a particular impression in different situations. So, editing according to Pudovkin is about combining these shots. They were the raw material and they could be used to create the desired effect on the people. He also developed 5 techniques of relational editing to create new meanings and associations, and these techniques are contrast, parallelism, symbolism, simultaneity and leitmotif. A very brief understanding of these different techniques has been listed on these slides, and a link has also been given for a better understanding of these ideas. The third person who is important to understand the Russian contribution is the work of Mise-en-scene. He has thought of montage as collision and he wanted to create meaning through juxtaposition. He has manipulated the emotions of audience and their responses with a very effective use of this technique of montage. His philosophy was that the montage is dialectical and it should serve as a method of intellectual investigation and not just as a film technique to put together certain scenes. So, he has used the spatial and temporal dislocation within his films and thus often created different type of influences which were sometimes jarring over the viewers. His theory of montage involves a particular type of violence of cinema, and he also used to see that we do not require a cinema eye or a cine eye, but what we require is a cine fist. So, he had embraced documentary style of filmmaking, and the different kinds of montages he had used were metric, rhythmic, tonal, overtonal and intellectual montages. So, during this module we have taken up a discussion of certain terms and techniques which are helpful in understanding how the film is made and how the meaning is created with the help of this medium. In the next module, we will take up a film as a case study to understand the application of these different types of techniques and adaptation theories which we have discussed so far. Thank you.